honest, it was feeling a lot like home.
Exactly.
But then, regardless, Abuja is a beautiful place to live in, and we do hope that it continues being a beautiful place to live in. How vigilant were you today? I'm back with my questions on vigilance. How much attention did you pay today?
As usual, I'll just have to pay attention to the cab I'm going to enter from one point to the other, as well as where I'm standing, because just a few days back we heard there was a refuse dump site that became a bomb explosion scene. So
Well, was it a bomb? The police is saying that it was actually a refuse explosion.
Exactly,
and these things happen.
It does, because if we don't know the contamination that people are dumping together, making that kind of chemical reaction that we had in Abuja. So anywhere I stand, I have to be very careful.
Of course.
Watch out whether there is a plastic somewhere,
Of course.
a box somewhere, so that you won't just have to be very
And
careful.
I'd like to add, in order to be safe, don't dump your refuse in metal bins. Very careful with that, because that can be the reason why we had that explosion yesterday. I was just sitting at home and I saw bomb. It was my older sister who sent it to me, so she was freaking out. She said, "You will leave this Abuja, you will leave this Abuja. I'm not understanding what is going on. From one chance to kidnapping, now bomb blast." I'm like, calm down. Send me the link to what you saw. Let's try to verify the news.
Exactly.
And I realized that it was just a lot of blogs that were saying it was a bomb explosion, which emanated from a tweet. And I'd like to say to Nigerians, this is our country altogether. Look, you're not going to benefit of anything by spreading fake news.
Exactly.
And I know it might just sound like I'm trying to sound like I'm on the side of the government, but honestly, fake news doesn't help anybody
At all.
Make sure you confirm what the source is. I mean, what benefit would it give to you if you just make people panic for no reason?
Exactly.
At the same time, be vigilant. Be vigilant. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to the people in your community. Again, I say welcome to VOB Roundup. On this show, we talk about the pertinent issues that concern us as Nigerians. Yesterday, we didn't have enough time to finish up, talking about the Vice President Kashim Shettima when he was in Davos last week for the World Economic Forum, and he said that Nigeria was, of course, Africa was the next global frontier, and also said Nigeria is the focal point of Africa, is the strongest point of Africa. If Nigeria stands, then Africa stands. And he went on to say Nigeria is not a poor nation. We do not go, we don't go negotiating from the place of weakness.
Or
We
taking our goals to go
we
and beg.
carry our poverty with dignity. At the same time, he said we're not poor, and we're a little bit confused. So let's walk around the conversation from. Let's just do a quick roundup from there, and then pick it up from there, and move on to the nitty gritties of the story and the takeaways for Nigerians. Again. I remember yesterday you were of the opinion that Nigeria is not a poor nation. You were
Exactly,
agreeing with
exactly.
Shettima, so let's run it down.
When I say Nigeria is not a poor nation, we're looking at our resource base, we're looking at our human capital base, we're looking at our huge population that's making it one of the viable market for consumption of commodities and other luxury items and other goods items. So that's alone that makes us to be a country that is rich and wealthy. But when you now want to translate this resource base into the individual citizen life, that's when you now discover there is poverty in terms of lack in the sense that many people don't have enough to eat that they can even have as reserve. So with that calculation, with that understanding, you can also say Nigeria is a poor nation, particularly even when the government has already admitted that we have what we call a dimensional form of poverty, or multidimensional form of poverty, in a sense that there are people who have access to school, there are people who doesn't have access to school, there are people who have access to health, there are people who doesn't have access to health, and we're able to categorize the access in terms of the level of each individual ability to access some of these fundamental basic human rights, fundamental infrastructure and educational facilities. So with that level, we can say, okay, we have poverty in the land, we have lack in the land, we have inequality in the land, we also have a situation whereby we also have excesses in the land, we also have a multiple accumulation in the land. What do I mean by these excesses? There are people who have in excess, and there are people who have more in accumulation. They don't even know what to do with it. So if you look at this range of differentiation between what is called poverty in Nigeria and when we say Nigeria is not a poor nation, but we have what we call poor citizenry. You get it? Poor citizenry in the sense that they don't have enough to eat and to drink, to wear, and their shelter is very, very, very discarded. When you talk about where Nigerians stay, there are some people who stay in a house without toilet, there are some people who stay in a house without bathroom, there are some people who stay in a house without good roofing system. So by the time you put all these factors together, you can say we are poor citizens, but when you put it together in terms of the nation as a whole, in terms of resource base, we are not poor.
All right, now before I go on with the questions, I just want to give a little bit of authenticity to this statement that was made by the Vice President of the Federation, Shetima. So I'm going to just quickly, let's hear his words.
We are not a poor nation by any standard. We are not a poor continent. We want to deal with people on a pedestal of equality. We do not come to the West with a begging bowl, no. We want to deal with them on mutually beneficial terms, because ours is the richest continent in the world. The whole countries of Europe, their resources are not up to the resources in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is why I said we carry our poverty with dignity. We are not here. Wherever we go to have mutually beneficial relationships with Western nations and with Western entities.
Okay, now my question to you, Adefolarin, real quick. Now that you're saying, Nigeria is not a poor nation, but then we have a poor citizenry. How did we get to that point? And then how do we translate the potential of our wealth? Because from what I believe is Nigeria has the potential of being a wealthy nation. Exactly. Not necessarily a wealthy nation yet. How do we convert the potential to actual wealth?
When
the citizens are not suffering, because that's enough feed the inside water, soap the inside,
and they say inside that same water, the kind of water we have, there is fishes and everything. Fish and we cannot fish, we cannot take it. Just a few people are taking the fish and eating it.
It's like saying that your mother is one of the people cooking for Wambe, and you are hungry at the event. It doesn't happen. How do we explain that Nigeria is a potentially wealthy nation, but Nigerians are poor people, multi-dimensional people?
There's that. What this is how it happens. We have to go back to memory lane in terms of how this country, from colonial to post-colonial period to when we got independent, to our first set of leaders in the First Republic, try as much as possible to make everything so simple, so reliable that citizens can have a feel of government. Then when the military took over and begin to administer the country from regional level to state, then we have this multiple states that we have about 36 states including FCT, then military government to military government, till we now have a civilian government, first in 1979, then thereafter by 1983 they are kicked out, the military came on until 1999 the military left the power and give it to civilian. I normally judge the Nigerian development from 1999 to date. I don't want us to bogus ourselves or focus too much on 1960 to 1998, but let's look at 1999 when we had the opportunity to make different around our wealth as a nation, as well as citizen welfare packages. But from 1999 to date, the opportunity was given to civilian government to change the narrative around the poverty level of Nigerians, but they never take it so serious, in the sense that they ended up making it so worse, to the point that we are now on the ladder of number 1 or number 2 as the most poor countries in the world. Why? Because the wealth of the nation has been segregated from the real cause of bringing development to the people. Meanwhile, what happened was that a lot of this elite, political elite, bring out policy that they call economic policy, but those policies end up becoming policy for elite developmental strategies. In a sense that you say you are constructing roads, you say you are bringing water, you say you are bringing education. At the end of the day, it ended up making the elite to be richer. Contract becomes something that we cannot even understand again, to the point that when government give contract to build school, they end up building substandard school. When you give contract for health facilities, they end up bringing substandard products, they end up building substandard hospital, they end up not equipping the hospital as expected. So by the time we put together all this failure of government policy, as well as the inaction of government to ensure that the development and the wealth of the people are translated into good welfare for the people, we are ended up being a poor. We have what we call poor citizen, but we have a rich nation. You can understand what I'm saying. A rich nation but poor citizen, because the wealth of the nation has not been managed in a way that can translate and change the life of the people. Rather, it has only changed the life of a very few percentage of the population in Nigeria, and it has continued like that since 1998 up to date.
This is not something that is news. to
At
our
all.
competitors.
Exactly.
It's not news to the rest of the world that
Exactly.
Nigeria is going through what it is going through. How do we then stand brazenly in front of these people and say that, oh no, Nigeria is actually strong, when they can see with facts and figures that are that is very public that is not the case in the country at the moment? How do you then say we are being perceived as liars or as people who are just blind to the truth?
Those are rhetoric statements from government officials. Even apart from the vice president, even when the president confronts or is in front of international audience, he will still say the same thing. The same thing with government official anywhere there. Even with us here back at home, they tell us things are working very well. It was not last week we discussed about things are working very fine. Things are doing this. They will make those rhetoric statements, but in reality, it is far from.
Does that help us in any way?
It doesn't. But the only thing is that it's a way of just making statements that can ensure that or assure the international audience that at least the government is doing something, but in reality they are not doing as much as we expected.
So we're going to be looking at this story vis-a-vis the visit of Anthony Blinken, the United States Secretary of State. Now, he met up with President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday. That was, of course, before the president decided he wanted to go on a private trip to France. We're going to deal with that in subsequent episodes because there's a lot to talk about with that. But then he went ahead to assure Nigeria that the United States of America is ready to partner and invest with Nigeria. That's Anthony Blinken, is on a tour, on an African tour. And he stopped by Nigeria. Now, he added that Nigeria has a lot to offer economically to the world. It has in his words, real clear and competitive opportunities, right, for investors. Then he then said Nigeria has to tackle corruption so that it makes it easier for companies to repatriate capital, as that is important in attracting foreign investment.
Definitely.
Before we talk about this visit by Blinken, what it means for Nigeria, vis-a-vis, our visit to our attending the World Economic Forum and all of the statements we've been making, what it means for Nigeria and what we should look forward to. Let's listen to what Blinken had to say.
I'm here in Nigeria at President Biden's behest, and earlier this week we were in Cabo Verde, in Cote d'Ivoire, and we'll be going on to Angola because we share that conviction. Africa has shaped our past. It is shaping the present. It will shape our future. Now, Nigeria offers real, clear, compelling opportunities for investors. At the same time, I think it's no secret that there remains some long-term challenges that need to be overcome to really unlock the full potential. Tackling corruption, making it easier for foreign companies to repatriate capital, these will all pull in a transformative direction and pull in transformative investment.
I would say that's a very loaded statement right there. I mean, especially when we are having our corruption being thrown in our face by international communities. This is the representative of the United States of America.
Exactly, United States President.
Exactly, and we're having him say, "Well, how about you tackle security?" Can we let me start like this? Can we interpret his statement as, well, if you tackle corruption, we'll be more than happy to do business with you?
Definitely, because if you tackle corruption, you have tackle at least 70% of Nigerian problem. Because the same corruption is what is fueling insecurity. It's the same corruption that is fueling poor development purpose across the country. It's the same corruption that is also fueling and be the bane of failure of government policy. So corruption is like the monsters that have arrested the entire Nigerian as a country. So when we tackle it very well, I'm not saying tackling corruption by showing media face of people that they have stolen money. No, tackle it to the root cause. Take a strategic opportunity to deal with it in a way that it can be free and Nigeria can be free from it. In a sense that when you made mention of foreign company can take back their capital back to their country, what he's trying to point out is that by the time we tackle corruption, the issue around our foreign exchange market should be dealt with. Because as far as some of them understood that, they now understood there are individuals who are making money out of the forex market. I hope you understand. Because if you look at the problem within the airline company that have over $80 million with the CBN, and why CBN cannot give them back their money was because when they were having that money in CBN account, CBN was frivolously giving that money out to people who are now turning that same money into money for themselves, and they cannot find any way to repatriate that money back to CBN. So what he is trying to point out, we should not allow such to happen with foreign companies that will be operating in Nigeria. After they have invested so much in Nigeria, they want to go back with their dollar, and they cannot find dollar to go back. Meanwhile, we have made mess of the dollar they brought into the country. So we must be able to tackle that aspect, because our forex market is one of the most open market that all manner of individuals, even though government is trying as much as possible to address the challenges, but as if the problem is just getting worse day by day. And they have identified it, that if an investor come into Nigeria and bring $50 million US, will you be able to take about at least $60 million US back, reaping like 10 million on top of the 50 million? Not that when you want to go back, the CBN will not say there is no dollar to give such individual. So how would they feel? So he was trying to make us to understand we should tackle the problem in our forex market, because individual groups are just taking advantage of that forex market to just take out our dollar and just use it anyhow and take it out.
Now we have we know that U.S. Travel Advisory has been advising United Americans to be wary of coming to Nigeria.
Exactly.
Warning them against coming to Nigeria. Most of them citing what's it called now, the insecurity situation in the country and whatnot. And now we're having Blinken come in and say, "Oh, we know that you're good soil." For businesses to thrive, and we want to do business here. Several Nigerians across various social media platforms have been questioning the sincerity of this, and we know that the US does only what the US benefits from. It's always the it's America first, all the time. How do we know how do we know that this is actually for the benefit of Nigeria?
Definitely
as well.
We will know, because most times that most Nigerians may not know that most of these foreign investors go to the stock market to invest in equity market. Most of them don't go to concrete market, whereby they can invest concrete investment like construction of manufacturing sector. They don't go there. They go to equity market where they can quickly put their money, then also take their money back immediately. But in terms of what the US is doing across the world, US is spending money in billions of dollars on NGO, CSO in Nigeria. It's also part of business, because most times when those CSO and NGO carried out the activities like in Northeast, where they do all manner of aid, grant, the rest of them, most of the product they use are from US. Most of the materials they give out in those places are from US. So it aid and help the economy to grow, because the manufacturing sector of the economy of US will be growing, even though whatever they are producing is bringing down here to come and be used, but then it increase the productive level of their country. So they already understand where they can invest their money and also reap back their money. That is clear. But in terms of whether Nigeria will benefit, definitely will benefit, but it won't be like the way the investors will benefit. They will pay taxes, which is good. They will employ our people, which is also quite very good. They also do one or two things that will, in terms of corporate social responsibility, which was good. But the alma matter of it all is that capital flight will go back to them, in the sense that the higher profit they make, the higher foreign currency they will be taking along with them, and they will go. Just like what is happening to Shell now. Shell is about to leave Nigeria. Other pharmaceutical companies, about 3 of them have left Nigeria as a result of what they say the business environment is not good. It's not good. But remember, they have been making billions of dollars out of this country in the last 40-30 years that have been operating. So those are the benefits. So you ask me, are we benefiting? We're benefiting, but not on equal level.
Now that would now be, I was waiting for you to talk about the quality of it. I was going to ask, is it really on equal basis? But then you said it's not on equal grounds. Going back to where Shetima was now saying that, we go on equal grounds. Do we now put this vis-a-vis and say, okay, something is wrong here, and if something is wrong, what is wrong?
It's very, although one thing that we must understand about the vice president's statement, those are statements rhetoric in nature that want to assure the international audience that Nigeria is ready for business.
But we just established, we just established that this international community, they are aware.
They are
of what. So who are we making a mockery of?
But the thing is that even though they have they conduct research here. You must have heard about TEFA organization that normally conduct research through what is happening in Nigeria. They have the understanding of what is happening, but they also want you to come and tell them how it is happening and what are you doing in that regard. So that's why those rhetoric statements will come from government officials to assure them that, oh, we know what we are doing, we know this thing is bad, but we are trying to put it across, want to ensure that this thing is corrected. But we also want to assure you that when you come to the country to come and invest, you are assured of reaping back your capital.
How
So
do
they won't
we-
go and be telling them the stories that others will tell them. Don't go there and invest your money, you will lose your
We're
money.
not expecting them to do
Uh-huh.
that. The fear that we're having, my fear, is that the government of the day, and not just this government, even previous ones,
Exactly.
they then begin to believe these rhetoric statements. They begin to believe, they seem to put themselves in a ball of make-believe situations, and they lose touch with the reality on ground. How do we draw the line then, Ade Folarin, to say, oh, these are politically correct statements that we just throw around, but there's work to be done on ground? These trips, hosting or here, traveling, we've seen this government has done a lot of moving around, a lot of
Exactly.
networking, a lot of showcasing of potential, a lot of, learning and collaboration, earning conversations left, right, and center. A lot of taxpayer money is going into it. A lot of time is going into it. This is some sort of investment.
Exactly.
How are we sure? How do we ensure that we are benefiting off of it?
Definitely we will benefit, but not at the level that all Nigerians expect it to be 100%. That is one. We must tell ourselves the truth. Take for instance, they want to COP28. There are donor money coming to Nigeria as part of COP28 to bring money to be able to help us to fight climate change. It's going to benefit us in the sense that we're going to put climate resistance policy, climate resistance structure, climate resistance project across Nigeria. It could be a benefit, but not the way Nigerians will expect it to benefit. Because at the end of the day, the corruption we have been talking about will still cripple into those particular projects. Now, the other angle is this: when statements are made in this regard to international audience, is to assure them to come. But when those ones come, it's not everybody that will come. The ones that have the mind to come will come. The one that doesn't have the mind not to come will not come. But the key message is that Nigeria is open for business. But how do we ensure that those ones that decide to come to invest in Nigeria will have the opportunity to also reap the benefit of opportunity to make profit from what they have invested in? That is the key message that we need to be telling people, and that is the key message that government is supposed to be assuring not just international audience but Nigerians, that if you invest in Nigeria, there is ease of doing business, that you go back home, relax, there won't be any security issue, you produce something, you get that thing produced, and you can export it, you can also consume it in Nigeria, and there won't be any challenge. But what we have is that government doesn't go that deep, because at the end of the day, as you rightly pointed out, they create opportunity for them to be in a balloon. They are the only one that enjoy everything that you are talking about, but ordinary Nigerians don't enjoy it, and that's why we have a lacuna between the government and the people. And that's why most people tell you that there's mistrust between the masses and the government, because what the government is saying on one side with one mouth, the other mouth is saying something different, and that's why something different is what the citizens normally feel. And what is those things? Failure of government policy across board. If you ask me now, Shetima have gone to the World Economic Forum. What are the things that he bring back to Nigeria? He will tell us that there are assurance that business people are coming. Who are those business people? Majority of them will go to stock market and invest their money. They will not come and build factory. They will not come and invest in farm. The ones that will come and invest in farm will bear very little. And when they are going, they go back with all they have come back with. So we just have to assure Nigerians that what we are saying with our both mouth or with the one side of our mouth is so correct with the other side of the mouth, because they are listening to us and Nigerians are watching. Because that's what I see, that when government official make statement, Nigerians are critical about what they are saying, like what Shetima have said now. Whether we are carrying our poverty with our dignity or whatever, they are watching, they are listening, and they want to ensure that government say the right thing and do what they say at the right time.
Now, we have had since 2022, we've seen a rise in people being interested in political issues in Nigeria, and we're seeing that rolling into this administration.
Exactly.
And how do you think it's propelling the government? Do you think that it's affecting the way that they are doing business? We've seen this government do a few things that shows this is not business as usual. Do you think that the people being this much involved in political issues is actually propelling the government to do better?
For me, it's like the government is looking at the body language of Nigeria, not the other way around that we know before. Before we say everybody looking at the body language of the president, but right now it is the government that is looking at the body language of Nigeria in terms of their reaction. I expected a more heated debate, more heightened participation, and more leveraging opportunity for Nigerians to communicate, to say what they need to say about what their government is doing. We haven't gotten to that level yet. What the government is just reacting to is the initial gra or the jack approach that we normally put it, because they know that Nigerians are very, very sensitive to the issue of corruption. So they are looking at that, and that's why they quickly respond to the Beta Edu case and the rest of the corruption issues. But the other aspect that Nigerians are also interested is development project. You say you will do this, we haven't seen it in 6 months. And if I begin to rail out the 12-point agenda that the president promised after the removal of subsidy, we can. How many of them have been fulfilled?
How long has the government been in
apart
office?
From the most
how long?
The most popular one is 35,000 wage award to civil servant. That is the one that the government is putting on its head, and that is the one they are fulfilling. They are fulfilling to the latter, which is 100%. What about the other ones that Nigerians want? They said they released grains to the market. We did not see enough of those grains. They said they are going to give people 10,000 naira. We have not seen it yet. They said they are giving state governors money. The state government do the one they can do with their own. What about ordinary Nigerians that are not in state? How have they captured those set of people to also ameliorate their poverty level? We have not seen it. So a lot of things have been said by the government, but we hardly see it being fulfilled to the latter. Although they would say it is on paper. Now take it away from the paper to the reality. That is where we have the challenge in government.
Don't forget that you can join the conversation via WhatsApp on 0700 010 961 961. You could drop a WhatsApp message, you could drop a WhatsApp voice note, or you could call us live in the studios with the numbers 0700 010 961 961. I have this comment, or Jonathan from Nyanya says, on the United States visit to Nigeria, the USA should take note that the people shall always win no matter what and however long it takes. You cannot say you support democracy and then build strong men who will serve your interest and not the people's. As against strong institutions that ensures democracy that you preach. Building strong men is you supporting totalitarianism, dictatorship, and as for the other issues concerning Nigeria, I have nothing to say. The court should continue to disgrace itself. Well, I'm not very sure where he was trying to lay his claim, but I think he's trying to say that Nigerians are going to rise above the challenges that we're facing right now.
We all hope that happens.
We really do. I have this other comment, doesn't say who. He says, let's hope Nigeria does not sell out to the rest of Africa for selfish gains.
It can happen. Already it has been happening across Africa. One thing we should know is that most African elite in power, they rely on their Western collaborators to sustain themselves in power. So if they don't play to the gallery of some of these Western power, they will be removed in office. We have seen that instances happen in Africa. Take for instance now, if Nigeria should go against US dictatorship or what US want, what do you think will happen? Just that most of us may not get the gist very well. There are some instances that have happened between 1999 and date that we know that it is the hand of this Western world in ensuring that something happen or something change. Although they will color it as fundamental human rights abuse, but we know that at the end of the day, it is something that has to do with the soul and spirit of African.
This I will take this comment and then use it to introduce my next question. Husseini says our African leaders should know what they want and not just keep welcoming dignitaries without just cause. My next question is, do we have a strategic need, like a blueprint of what we want to benefit off of the United States of America? Or I don't know why I keep wanting to say United States of Nigeria, the United States of America, or are we just joining the bandwagon, like yeah, Blinken is doing a tour, we are Nigeria, he should be here?
Definitely not that because we want Blinken to come to Nigeria. It's the US that also desire it to be something that can happen to Nigerians and Americans at first, in a sense that they're looking at corporate organizations or corporate countries that will help them to sustain capitalist democracy. So they look for friendly nation that will help them to also fulfill the implementation of American agenda across the world. So that's why Blinken is here, to ensure the American spirit, American corporate agenda in Africa, in third world is sustained. If they don't come, we will go to them, and that is why it is very important we ensure that whatever we want, just like the question said, do we really know what we want as Africans? We must ensure that we know what we want as Africa, but we know that what we want is also very important to ourselves and to them, because our own case is that we want poverty to be eliminated. So how are we going to eliminate poverty when capitalism is getting stronger and stronger through exploitation across the world? So we must be able to understand what we want in that relationship so that we can have a better and balanced foreign mission with either the US, the UK, India, China, and the rest of them, because they also want something for themselves. Just like we also want
something from them. Well, as should be. As should be. Now, remember, you mentioned that one of the major reasons why we're not having, besides you mentioning, I think it's quite obvious for everyone to know, one of the major reasons why we're not having as many investors as we should in the Nigerian economy is the forex situation we found ourselves in. With the body language of the CBN and the economy of the nation at the moment, you know, it's looking like they are focusing more on relocating their offices than the work that has to be done. How soon? What is the possibility of this major challenge being fixed, and how soon before we would actually be ready enough to welcome investors?
Definitely, already the government has said they are ready to welcome investment, but the question
they've said, Folari, we have agreed that they say a lot. That we're talking about the reality on ground now, based on what we can see. How ready are we to welcome investors, and how long would it be before we are ready?
They have set the tone for us to welcome investment, to ensure investment enjoy the fruit of their labor, tackle corruption. So the question we should be asking ourselves: how ready is President Tinubu to tackle corruption in Nigeria? We're not saying media trial of corruption cases. We're talking about the root causes of corruption within the public sector and the private sector. So the American government have expressed their fear. Nigeria is ripe. Nigeria is a potential place to invest, but there is a problem. And what is that problem? Corruption. So how would the government of the day tackle corruption if he himself is not discharging himself from the exchange of corruption? If you understand what I mean, if the government himself is not discharging himself or separating himself from corruption, everybody complain about the kind of people that have been appointed into government. Everybody complain about the bottleneck in getting government to fix even a borehole. All the processes are processes that are leading to, we can consider to be corrupt activities, bringing that to happen. Why would I say so? Because in the past we have seen a situation whereby companies, 12 of them, that have no understanding of how to carry out verification and collect 3 billion, and several of them are happening as we speak right now. So if the government himself is not ready to tackle corruption, investors will be shying away from Nigeria. That is as simple as ABC.
Okay. The last thing you said, I really want to touch on that. Investors will be shying away from.
Exactly.
Does the visit by Blinken help our chances of having investors turn towards Nigeria a little bit?
Strictly, yes, I would say so. But we need to work on what he has said. Tackle corruption and tackle insecurity.
The journey to fighting corruption, Folari, is not a sprint.
At all.
In a country like Nigeria, let's be honest with ourselves, it's a marathon.
Exactly.
It's one of the longest marathons. Are we then saying that until that is completely tackled, we can't have any form of investment, or tackled to what extent? Because now, talking about tackling corruption, we had the Buhari administration spent 8 years, and corruption didn't shift
at all.
Instead it grew. Pardon my saying. So how much longer? What has to be done for us to tackle it? We've seen the EFCC boss come out and he's headstrong, saying we need to fight this. But who else has to put their hands on deck? How hard do we have to go before we can actually welcome this?
First and foremost, let us punish everybody found to be corrupted. Show example to everybody.
Would we have anybody standing? Let's face it. Would we have anybody standing, considering down to the people that offer bribes to security operatives or road safety officials on the road are corrupt? Would we have anybody standing?
Okay,
we're going to do away with everybody, because now we are starting. We're talking out of the reality on ground. Corruption has eaten deep into Nigeria. It's beyond the stage 4 cancer at this point.
Exactly, but we have to start from somewhere.
Exactly my question. And where do we begin from?
We will begin from the current administration in ensuring that whatever policy they put out is adhered to and it is fulfilled. Till tomorrow, there is still corruption in the forex market. Why is it that people are still round tripping the dollar and other foreign currency, and the government will be looking aloof? What stopped them from arresting and prosecuting people? You get it? Then we talk about contract splitting, employment racketeering in government circle. What has the government done in that regard? Then you have a file that you want to come and check in government offices. Civil servants are playing dilly-dallying with your file. Let's start from somewhere. As little as it could be, let's start and show example to people that at least Nigerian government is serious about fighting corruption, and that is the best way. But the biggest corruption out of it is that when we give money to people to do projects, how are we monitoring those projects that it is not substandard project they are carrying out for Nigerians. So if we can take it off from any small factor, any small area that we can ensure that we fight corruption, then it will be very, very glaring to international world that we are serious about corruption. But when we keep hiding and piling them and keeping them under the file in the name of the court trial, this one trial, EFCC chasing, that will not help our nation, and foreign direct investors will shy away and they will not come. But as I said earlier, let's start, no matter how small it is, let's start with this current administration. Although there are files that have been opened by EFCC of past governors, of past this and past that, but the current one that is happening, let's show example that we are serious. Let the Tinubu administration show example that truly I want to fight corruption within our government and outside my government.
All right, now I want to go back real quick. So we round up these two stories and then I'll take the final one before we call it a close. Now let's talk about the strength and weakness of the second largest poor population in Nigeria, which is ours.
Exactly.
Here. I said I'm taking these two stories side by side today. Now the strength is we have the numbers. How do we utilize these numbers to be able to make sure that we're moving forward and we're making some sort of progress?
Number one is to ensure that we produce and consume what we have. Nigeria is a large market for consumption of commodity products, and we have the numbers to consume this product, but we are not making advantage of it. That's number one. Then number two, the human resources that we have in terms of human capital that we are we utilizing to ensure that we transform and translate our economy. We need to focus on that strictly. Then number three is our agricultural product that we are producing. How many Nigerians are government be empowering? Even though in the past they say we are empowering people to go into agriculture, but how are we ensuring that it is effective enough that people will not just go into farming, but they will go into farm product processing, beyond just tilling the ground, harvesting the product and eating it, but turning some of those products into finished goods for consumption locally and for export. I believe that we have the numbers and we can utilize this number to our greatest advantage, particularly in self-reliance in economy, self-reliance in food supply, and self-reliance even including security protection. So how are we utilizing? How many people are we recruiting to the security forces to ensure that we protect ourselves against the enemy of the country?
Well, there we have it. Let's move on to our next story. Next story is one that I tried to avoid, but then it kept showing up in my prep. So let's just deal with it. Remi Tinubu, the wife of the president, says prayers were responsible for the rescue of the Al-Qadria family, sisters that were abducted by bandits in Abuja. Now, if you remember Monday, we treated this story, and then we just kept moving away from it. But we have to tackle every single story that does appeal to the hearts of Nigerians. We had a lot of requests to touch it, so let's do that. Now, the First Lady on Monday used her X account to celebrate the return of the five of the six sisters who were abducted from the Buhari area council in Abuja. Of course, we're all familiar with the story. Now, she said that, let me quickly read the tweet. I rejoice with the Al-Qadria family, friends and Nigerians in general for the safe return of the Al-Qadria sisters. Prayers work. And I want to thank all Nigerians, especially mothers, for praying for the safe return of the Al-Qadria family. Let us, however, not relent in our prayers. Let us intensify our prayers, as it is prayers that will bring us out of this conundrum we find ourselves as a nation. This sparked a lot of conversation. Lots of Nigerians were like, what, prayers? Okay. First off, what are your thoughts about this statement saying, prayers are responsible for this? We have to intensify prayers. Is this the right way to look at the problem? Or are we still towing down the same line that got us in this situation in the first place?
In the first place, we must understand the mood or the thinking of the president's wife, in a sense that apart from she being a pastor, she also a Nigerian. I mean, if you ask the question, how many Nigerians doesn't believe in prayer? That's why they call us the prayerful nation. That's why they call us the spirit cocoa nation. I hope you have not forgotten. So for me, it is not far from the reality of what if she perceived in terms of the body language of the entire Nigerian. Because in the first place, when you hear the Nigerian complaining about hunger or poverty, the first thing you will say is, God will help us. You get it? So that is the psyche of every Nigerian when it comes to solving problem. And solving problem doesn't mean that you cannot pray, but the real thing need to be done. The concrete aspect of you getting it done need to be done. Although I will not say, okay, what she said was wrong, but because she has understood that these are the lines that Nigerians normally follow, including the people who may be castigating or may be criticizing on social media, everybody will say one line of prayer or the other. But in the consciousness of everybody, we know that it is not just prayer that will make it work. We need to do the real work. If the policemen have not gone into the bush to look for them, if the other security architecture have not been put on alert, there is no way that could have become.
My question in regards
alone.
of this prayer statement is, sometimes we make careless statements that make God seem wicked. What then do we say about Nafisa that lost her, Nahiba that lost her life?
The first daughter of
the
the
daughter
family
who lost her life. She was meant to graduate just that day, in 2 days or 3 days, Monday, 29th. That's when she was meant to graduate. First class. The prayers did not reach her. She wasn't worthy of the prayers being done. Is the first lady not supposed to be, that's the question now, is the first lady not supposed to be focused on calling her husband's attention to say, my husband, our children are in problem. We need to do what we need to do to save them. Deter him from going on ceremonial activities while these same children she's saying prayers got them out of. Did prayer put her and her husband in office, or was it people that came out of their houses? Was it action or was it prayer? No, because we start to lose we lose it.
Exactly. We lose the track of the real thing we're supposed to focus
of what we're supposed to be focused on. How does a first lady, this is a person that this government was convincing Nigerians just about a couple of weeks ago that she was so important, almost as important as the vice president, because when they were reducing the number of what's it called, the entourage of the president and all the cabinet members, the numbers she has is equal to the one the vice president has.
Exactly.
And then she comes out to say prayers. Are we saying that prayers, because if prayers that we need, then let's just quit going to offices and
sit at home and be praying?
No, let's go to church and go to the mosque and go to our traditional houses of prayer and pray. Where is the place of prayer and where is the place of work?
I think we should not mix the both of them. I think that's what we are trying to, the message you are passing from the platform, that we should know the responsibility where prayer start and end. But we also know the responsibility when the concrete work also start and end. And for me, the concrete work is a continuous one. Prayer can be a background, but no, we should not push it at the public domain, because what she has done is to push the prayer issue at the public domain. First and foremost, if she wanted to say it in a way that would have got the assurance of public, is to say we want to congratulate all our security architecture for ensuring that this safe return of the victim of kidnappers. That would have saved the day and nobody will be criticizing her. But putting prayer first shows that she also is following the rhetoric line of many Nigerians who believe that God will do it, God will help, God will save us, God will do this. Meanwhile, they know the right thing to do. I don't know whether you get the blessing. So they push all these rhetoric statement front and they forget the real work to do. And that's why we are finding it very difficult to even solve the Nigerian problem, because you give a contractor work to go and do, they will tell you no, 6 months time, rain is coming, don't worry, we'll do it. Then when rain comes, they will not be telling we pray that the rain will stop. And you'll be wondering, 4 months ago that you started this work, you never do anything. Now that rain has come, you are asking that God should stop rain. How would that happen?
Can we describe this as using religion as a tool, just as it has been used? Look at the last elections, for example. We had one political party focusing on bringing a Muslim ticket. Nigerians got their minds off the fact that these were individuals.
Exactly.
We had other aspirants, presidential aspirants, going from church to church, making statements. How has religion has been used as a tool? Yes.
Very well. You can't really.
But how did we start to misuse it? At what point did we start to misuse religion as a tool in Nigeria? And then how can we use it right?
See, one thing I have said is that let us even put it aside first, because when you bring religion into the governance, it becomes an opium for people in government, whereby they become lazy, they don't think, and they will never do things rightly. So we should separate religion from governance. We should allow governance to be practical, more empirical, more evidence-based than just bringing religious sentiment into it. Because we will make the people in that government to be very lazy. If you go around all government agencies, you see them creating chapel and mosques all around in their compound, praying and doing this. But the real work they're supposed to, the same people who finish praying, go and ask them for your file. They will tell you, come tomorrow, come next tomorrow. They just finish praying. So for me, let's separate that aspect from the governance structure of Nigeria, because it has been hindering us not to think straight. Because imagine you give a contractor, just like I mentioned earlier, you give a contractor job to build a road, he'll be telling you that in 6 months time the rain will come. Between that period when rain will come, what have you done so far to ensure that the road is complete? Then when rain comes, you now start praying that let rain stop. So it is also cutting across all activities of government, whereby people just believe in that prayer, and it is deceptive. In a way that they used to deceive people in many instances, to the point that you now believe that, okay, let us go and surrender ourselves to prayer and will not do the work we're supposed to do. And in the development class, it doesn't happen that way. They also believe in prayer, but they ensure that the right thing is done. The right file is taken, the right person to sign, and the right person take the check to the bank to collect the money, and the money is given to the right people. But here in Nigeria, we pray, but we also do something disjointedly that will affect our developmental purpose. So for me, let us separate prayer from governance. Let's not even bring it up at all into anything that has to do with governance.
I have this comment from Josh Tolu. He says, on a different note, here are random things the presidency can do easily without calling for prayers or big budgets. With the help of the National Assembly, they can ban betting immediately, promote state-controlled lottery to avoid capital flight, completely ban skin bleaching, impose harsher laws against peddlers, and increase punishment for smugglers. For health and self-identity purposes, especially for the girl child. They can also ban state-sponsored pilgrimages and tax private-sponsored pilgrimage to discourage capital flight. We're going to deal with that very soon. Build new correction centers, prisons for VIP corruption cases. I don't agree with that. You're going to say that to anybody else who aren't extremists. Tax intentional tourism according to the quality of economy of the destination country and duration of stay to encourage capital flight. Tax long-term emigration for capital reasons and to discourage mass emigration, among an array of other things. I have little faith in this government, so I won't keep my hopes up. Well, thank you very much, Josh Tolu. What are your thoughts with this? I have two more comments, but comment on this and then we'll move.
A very fantastic suggestion, but the thing is that most of those suggestions are too big. They may not be implementable. They are too, for me, they may be something that we will have to have confrontation. Particularly when you talk about tax this, tax that.
Are we running away from the big conversations now? Are we running away from the difficult conversations now? If it's going to bring confrontation, are we running away from
it will bring confrontation in the sense that most of those things, at the end of the day, the person suggesting it, by the time it comes to him for him also to comply, will become a challenge, because we'll begin to give excuses. The business environment is not this, this is not that. Imagine saying that we should build correctional facilities for corrupt elite. So they will go and be staying in AC field correctional facilities or what? We don't want that. So what we need is a stronger punishment for corrupt individuals. If you imagine capital punishment, it will go a long way and it will help us a lot.
All right, now I have this one from Babatunde 2805. It says, we are all in this together, ma. Some of us understand it's always easy to get things spoiled, but fixing it takes a lot of patience and endurance. Nigeria didn't become this bad in a year or two, so it will definitely take years to fix. Please deliver our message to Jagaban.
Definitely, we have to deliver the message to him, because we know that 4 years or 8 years is not enough to clean the mess, but he must start from somewhere. That is the message. That is what we are delivering on this platform. He must start from somewhere. If it's only corruption he can tackle in the power sector, it will go a long way to revive Nigerian manufacturing sector and industrialization of the country. Just tackle corruption in the power sector alone, it will go a long way. That is the key message we need to deliver to him. Tackle corruption in the power sector, whereby Nigeria can enjoy at least a minimum of 18 hours power supply a day. You will see weather, you see hairdressing, you see barbing salon, you see computer center, cafe. All businesses will be running. Some people will be running 24 hours a day. They will be employing people for daytime, they will be employing people for nighttime. It will be shifting from morning to night, and it will be very good, and to help the economy go. But if we keep looking at it from laissez-faire attitude, we don't want to tackle corruption either in the power sector, either in the agric, either in the education sector, Nigeria will remain where it is. And 8 years will pass or 4 years will pass, depending on how God gives to him, and we'll still come back and complain or murmur.
Well, the final comment we'll be taking for a wrap of the show tonight. Prayers works indeed. Insecurity is always as a result of bad governance. Work hard to improve the lives of Nigerians as opposed to praying hard. That's from Ernest. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you very much for listening on the show today. Any final words, Adefola?
For me,
on all of the stories.
For me, on the stories, we just hope that Nigerian government will walk the walk of their statement, walk the walk through actionable, concrete and evident, empirical-based project that Nigerians can see. Like I said, the power sector is very key to Nigerian economy. With that, we can solve so many problems. The forex market is also very key to Nigerian economy. It will attract a lot of foreign investors into the country if we tackle the corruption within that sector, because there are a lot of sabotage within that sector. Now, prayer is very good, But prayer is not enough. We should work more hard, ensure we do the right thing, and government do the right thing by ensuring that civil servant, public servant, political appointees, and the president himself will not take things for granted, but ensure that Nigerians sleep with their two eyes closed and have enough to eat and for reserve.
Well, you've heard it from us, Voice of the People, 96.1 FM Abuja. We do our best to bring you the right stories, the important stories. We do our best to ask the right questions. Don't forget, you have a responsibility to make Nigeria great. You are part of the large population that we are talking about. You alone, you're not too small to make a difference. Start from your immediate community. Be vigilant and watch out. Okay? Make you not be like, say, you dey try find black goats for nights. You begin early. And don't forget, put lights out there. We're still begging on the minister of the FCT. There are parts of the FCT that are dark. You're moving late at night, there are no street lights. That just encourages a lot of crime. And we really want to get out of this situation that we're in. Thank you for joining us. My name is Chinwe Blessing. Have a very beautiful, beautiful evening.
You can take the boy out of radio, but you can't take the radio out of the boy, can you?
Broadcasting in high definition.
Voice of the People, 96.1